Welcome back to Absolutely. My name is Benny, that is Hassan, that is Dylan, and I'm gonna take down these two to the ground, cause I'm always right. But if you enjoy fun conversations...
First of all,
what?
it's before
What?
these two. I feel like I'm a neutral bystander in this war that we're about to
Hold on.
ensue
Before we get into this, okay, I'm still gonna beat you into the dirt. Anyway, Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsors G Fuel and Into the AM T-shirts. Make sure you check out both those links down below. And if you want to support us directly, please join up with our YouTube memberships. Now.
And they, by the way, G Fuel and Into the AM have no opinion one way or the other on this.
Good call.
As far as I know.
So they're unbiased.
I got to explain what's going on, why there's a Hassan versus Benny Civil War Part 2. Okay, so going to go back in time. Okay, so this is our back in time thing.
Yeah, of course.
Last week's episode review of She-Hulk, there was Megan the Stallion, or Meg the Stallion, however it's pronounced, okay? The debate led to, and I'm going to try to do this recap as unbiased as possible, even though I was right. But anyway.
Dude.
Bad start.
Terrible start.
The debate turned into, they jokingly were like, hey, Benny, you don't know who Meg the Stallion is. I thought it was a creation for the MCU, which led to Hassan wording this one comment that led down an entire rabbit hole of she is the biggest thing in the last 3 years.
Yes. Which I want to come to Hassan's defense real quick, because I don't think I got to say this in the episode.
Okay.
Hyperbole exists. So... just going to throw that out there real quick.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You want to argue who I think is a biggest thing in the world? BTS. Definitely much bigger than Megan Thee Stallion. Or
Never heard of them.
No, fuck that. No, there's no way.
I've never heard of BTS.
There's no
honestly,
way you've heard of
well, because I haven't heard of it, it doesn't exist. Let me
I'm
look
right,
it up.
actually.
Well, it's on my Forbes list, so
I don't
it has
believe
to
that
be real
because
now.
you're on Twitter, Dylan, and they're everywhere.
What the hell is Twitter? What are you talking about right
Also,
now?
I think before we get into the discussion, we
Let me finish the
polled
recap.
you guys. We polled.
Let me finish the recap.
Let's just
So he makes that comment. This is going to be a totally just fun episode, guys. Okay, this is all this is going to be. So he made that comment, and I, in Benny ADD hyperfixation mode, went like, that can't be right, and I Googled some stuff. And what I found was a Forbes master list of all of the top 5 as ranked by Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and sales, Billboard chart. It was all of them. All of them. So using that to counter his argument as the biggest thing, I said she is on none of these lists as the top 5 in every category. Now that led down a whole rabbit hole of arguments and discussions, all based on a one wording from Hassan. And for the record, I know what Hassan meant. She's a big deal. She's a huge artist. She's well known. But
her
it was
music
the
maybe
wording.
more so than her, which I'll concede that. Her music far more than her herself.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is, just for the record, I like to fight with Hassan mode because we have so much fun doing it. Went for his literal statement and had to fight that.
Well,
Which led down the whole rabbit hole.
and since we're going with literal statements and evidence, I think we should conclusively open with, we polled you guys 6 days ago with the sentence, there was a debate in our latest She-Hulk review about how popular Meg the Stallion is. It starts at about 20 minutes. This is the episode. Who was right?
Right. We didn't say anything in that. We let you guys hear our debate just verbatim. We didn't go, this was Betty's point, this was Hassan's point.
Nothing.
I don't know the results of this because I didn't see this poll.
It
went up. Yeah, it went up.
1.5 thousand votes.
Okay.
And Benny the Comicstorian was 30% or 37% correct.
Hey, give me my 7. Give me my 7.
And I was 63% correct. So Benny roughly like 4,000 to 5,000 votes, and me with 10. Right. I think though what we have proven throughout this discussion is that you are completely right for the people you are talking to, and I'm entirely right for the... Because the comments really were that. There were people who were like, I'm not involved in any social media.
In the response. They would respond
That's why I asked that. I was like,
yeah.
That's why I said, tell me who you agree with, and then tell me how old you are. Because it for the most part, there are obvious outliers, but from the comments I read, for the most part, it was... people who were older would say that they didn't even know who she was, and people who were younger said that she did. I'd say 25
and under straight up agreed and said I know exactly who that is and everything, and 25 and over we would more traditionally lose people to not know who she was.
Yeah, and then there's definitely outliers too, because there are people who are like, I'm 20, but I had no idea, but I'm also not involved in internet culture, and then it's like, I'm 40, but I actually know what it was because I'm on TikTok. So there's definitely like a range of comments, and we wanted to get on here to stress it, because first of all, guys, for the people commenting, you guys aren't friends, you're just coworkers.
Hold on. Before you go to that. So what we decided to do for this follow-up was we wanted to actually answer comments like we're going to go through and answer some of these comments, and we wanted to give you guys the results of the poll and what came out of this whole thing. So we actually wanted to respond to some of these comments because we think it's great. I actually want to start with this one. I don't know, because I just did by newest. We had one 2 days ago, and I don't remember you doing this, Dylan, but the comment was, thank you, Dylan, for roasting Benny. Also, Kang is in the last episode of Loki. I don't remember you roasting me, but
I think it's just because there was a point. There was a point where you said that you don't care about Megan Thee Stallion at all, and I said that you clearly do because you were making such a strong argument.
I was like, my only argument to kind of seal this whole argument is, I never denied, because a lot of these are going to state that she's I was claiming that she was. I never said she wasn't a big deal. Just the argument was always the biggest thing. And for the record, I would consider BTS as a bigger thing. They're also not on that Forbes list. I think they had one thing in every one thing out of all those categories.
Yeah,
but I've seen
something I was going to say too
BTS.
Is I just looked it up. Like I think because those lists are kind of skewed, right? Because it favors people who have been on the platform for longer, not like people who are big right now, but people who have been consistently big for a long time. Like Ed Sheeran has had the #1 song on Spotify for a long ass time, but he's also been active for way longer than a lot of.
And you're not wrong.
It's
how it works in any field of expertise in general. Ed Sheeran's going to be higher, even if it's a newer song, even if it has more downloads than say a Meg Thee Stallion song. He's also far more well-known because he's been around for 20 years. That's why he's getting those numbers. The same thing applies to even YouTube. There's a reason why like Markiplier and PewDiePie will never fade out of popularity because they've just so big and been around for so long. Same thing in the world of video games. World of Warcraft can never be dethroned officially because it's just been around too long. That's how it works the same way in music. You always go back to the ones you enjoy. I do want to go over this because one of these comments I'm going to bring up. But Hassan, you've been dying to mention this comment, so you go first.
Well, there's several that I'm hoping to get through in this video. But
okay.
there's one where, and I don't want to read the quote or find the specific comment, but they go out of their way to say, hey, this show's fun, and clearly you guys are just coworkers and not friends, and it's why you do it. But if you don't want to talk about something, it went on this crazy tangent that implied that we're not friends or that we do this because this is our job. I don't know about you, or I do know about both of you because you both have other things to do too. This show is purely made for us to have fun. I'm on this show because these are my friends and we love talking about this stuff, not for any other reasons. This is not my day job in the slightest. And then that piggybacks off of another comment that was like, Hassan is a Zoomer who's chronically online on TikTok and Twitter, and they're like, well, it's his job. Someone replied to that and they goes, well, no, it's not. He just reviews comic book stuff. Guys, I love this. This is probably one of my favorite things I get to do. I have like 2 million of my own subscribers and 6 million of my own followers on the internet for my own thing. I'm separate.
His job is being Mickey Mouse.
My job is being Mickey Mouse.
If we were to, I'll say this and I'll give this to you. If we were to just take straight follower counts, not what each follower is worth at each platform, because that is a whole different debate, but straight follower count, Hassan beats me across the board. Doubles my numbers. So he's here for fun.
Well, I'm literally here for the joy of being here. And if me and Benny argue, do you know how much fun it is to argue with Benny? Yeah. Because even when he's wrong, he'll keep arguing for like an hour.
Benny, you said something. You said one of the comments that mentioned the Kang thing. They said that Kang was in the last episode of Loki. I feel like that was another example of just a stupid argument where like Benny was clearly wrong, but he defended his point.
No, it was he who remains.
It's here. I still stand by that. I know it's semantics, but they never called him Kang. So
that's one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite episodes to film, just because that's the fun that I have like talking about nonsense and like yelling in circles about an argument that makes no sense is one of my all-time favorite pastimes. There was one time I was in a circle of friends, and one of my friends brought like a new person who none of us knew. She was just like, hey, I'm going to bring my friend from like college. to this party you're having. I was like, all right, cool. The more the merrier. And there was one point where two of my friends and myself were just talking about, like, we were doing a bit where we were basically just lying to each other, like just saying nothing, completely straight-faced. And my friend who brought, like, a stranger turns to her and goes, yeah, they're just lying. Like, don't listen to them. It's like, that's like...
I do want to clarify... Oh, go ahead. If you got more to go. I'm trying to jump in.
I just think, like, stuff like that, a lot of people don't... If they actually think that we're, like, mad at each other or, like, upset or something, we're playing it up because it's fun.
Oh, yeah. I want to clarify
cares.
two things. One thing... The existence of this channel is entirely for the fun of it. So the average YouTuber's lifespan on YouTube is about 5 years. If you hit it big, you'll hit big, you'll do well. Then you slowly but surely start to trickle down. What that typically means is as you trickle down, if you have a staff like Comicstorian does, the staff will eventually get cut. It's just the nature of this business. It's nothing I've done or anything. It'll equalize. We'll lose excess people. We'll do stuff like that. And things. That's traditionally how it goes. Seeing that coming at Comicstorian, because we've been around for 9 years, we created all these channels. One, to have fun and be more creatively and like have more fun with our friends. But two, the idea behind this was to give people like Dylan, the editor over here, this is portion of his. So if something happens, he has something to walk away with as opposed to nothing. But that means is that only one person has any stake in this as far as like a job. The rest of us show up for the sheer fun of it. And sure, we do get paid, but we only hire people that we have fun talking to. Because for me, I consider my best friends people who challenge me intellectually and argue with me and don't just agree with everything. Because I just find those conversations boring in the end. I have a lot of acquaintances. Such a boring show. But
imagine how boring that would be if all three of us got on and were like, okay, She-Hulk was fun. Any opinions? No? All right, cool. No. And then like that's it. Like that's the video. It's like, what? Okay. That's somebody. If we're talking about comments, somebody did say like that they appreciate our willingness to like talk about a show critically, even if we like it. And I think like that's what's so crazy to me about like people in the comments. A lot of the time will miss it. And it's a vocal minority. I want to make that very clear. But like people in the comments who understand that we have to talk critically about these shows, even if we adore them, or movies or whatever, is like, like, because that's what makes interesting discussion, is like people talking about their opinions in depth. And if you can't, which you absolutely can, we just talked about Batman the Animated Series for like half an hour, and there was like maybe one criticism in it, and like you can do that, but a lot of the time that's not possible. So we're gonna yell about nonsense.
Other end of that spectrum too, there's a lot of people in the comments that specifically went at me. There's somebody specifically who wrote about 10 paragraphs to me criticizing how I talk about TV and movies. They were very adamant that I should not under any circumstance be hyperbolating praise that I'm giving to people, and that I need to be a strict critic. And then they wrote all their criticism. They went on paragraph, and it's like, at that point, man, launch your own show, put up your own blog, tweet all this stuff out if you want to host your own thing. I don't there are a lot of YouTube channels that are just like crazy angry critics. I don't like them. I've never enjoyed watching them. Like Cinema Sins. I think that might be one of the most the most egregious, unwatchable properties that exist on the internet. And this is purely a Hassan Kader opinion here. I watched it as a kid, and I cannot stand when it pops up. Cinema Wins, on the other hand, guy who did their own thing but then praises it. Maybe one of my favorite channels on YouTube. So I've never been a fan of criticizing. There's a comment. He got really angry at me because I said, "Oh my God, Adrian Chase is in She-Hulk. It's so fun. He's from Arrow. I love that guy. He did a fantastic performance." And then Dylan was like, "I don't know about fantastic, but he was good." And that's as far as it needed to go. I like to hyperbolate the praise because for me, that's more fun. Talk. And on top, yeah, absolutely. And then there was, like I have a friend who's on one of the TV shows that we review. We review Superman Lois. My friend plays Superman's son. He plays Jonathan Kent. No, Jordan. God damn it. Their names are so confusing.
Boy, you're such good friends with him that you keep telling us all the time, and you don't even know he plays, Hassan. Come on.
Oh, sorry. I keep getting all the actors.
Where is he? So good friends. Bring him up.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, wait, put him on the phone right now. Put him on the phone.
He's filming Superman and Lois right now. He started shooting yesterday.
FaceTime him on the set.
I gotta prove I know you. I gotta prove I know you.
Let's see. Should I call? Maybe do it. I would. Okay, hold on. I was gonna do it if you wanted me to do it. Whatever. But like Alex watches the show, or he watched a couple of our reviews, and he was so thankful that we were
crazy. By the way,
well, he was literally like, excited and happy about the way we talked about his character. And the criticisms that we gave weren't really criticism, but we praised his performance. And he really appreciated it. And there's a commenter, which, I respond to...
I was going to bring it back to the comments. I don't want to turn this into...
Yeah, no. Well, my initial response to him was, hey, I just love appreciating people putting work on their crafts. The actor was my favorite part of season 5 of Arrow, so I was ecstatic to see him on screen again. He responds with, there is a way to appreciate work without going overboard. You can say someone is really good and or the show itself, but it comes off as disingenuous and being easily satisfied, which happens with Superman and Lois and Young Justice too. I mean, going the first 3 episodes of How I Met Your Mother or that 70s shows with plenty of other incredibly well are significantly better. Tatiana Maslany is so much better in the pilot of Orphan Black than this show in 3 episodes. Episode 3, what does an actress with playing all the clothes and the reshooting? It just like keeps going, and he goes on and on and on.
I think but
it's all opinion-based stuff.
It's a weird opinion that people have of like critics and what critics should be, which is such I think like an outdated kind of like these white men in suits who go and like, well, this is objectively bad or good because of such and such film rules, and it's like, well, it's actually all just art, which is incredibly subjective, and people are going to have opinions. And I think what's so good about like modern criticism in shows like this is it's not just a faceless review from a faceless reviewer. It's a series of reviews from people who you can start to learn what they like and why they like it. So like if Hassan really likes something and he really likes a bunch of things, you can start to form this opinion on like, okay, Hassan might like this and he might not like this. And that's like, just like with your friends, if you're recommending them a show and you're like, oh, well, I really like this, but you probably wouldn't. Like critics are just as subjective. Like there's no like, this is objectively bad or objectively
I'm putting
good.
a stop to this.
That's stupid.
I was promised a fun thing, Civil War Part 2, and you two are just going on about why you're allowed to critique things.
Listen.
No one cares, Hassan and Dylan.
You know what? Then I'm going to critique the most important thing. God damn it, Benny. When you're wrong, you're wrong.
That's true.
Well, here's one of our comments here. For someone who's adamant about keeping the show's topic on track, Benny derails the fuck out of this video to be petty. I want to respond to that. If you didn't know I can be petty, you haven't been watching long enough.
The man is petty on anything that's not a complete story series because he can't do it there.
Also, that segment might not have been left in because Benny asked me, like, he said it was up to me, which is why it's left in. He was like, I don't know if we should put that in the episode. And I was like, absolutely not. That is staying. It's so funny. That's not going anywhere.
Hey, we got the most comments we ever got, and we certainly started dialogue and greater conversation.
Right, yeah, totally.
What more could we ask for? There was even some comments. I was at Dragon Con, like on the drive to Atlanta, reading these comments, and there's one that says, I'm vehemently anti-Hassan, but I gotta say, I know who Meg Thee Stallion was. Maybe one of the funniest comments I read, and I replied to it, and they're like, or I replied to it as, also super anti-Hassan, can't stand when he's on screen, and then they followed up with, it's so frustrating how handsome he is, because they like doubled back and were really sweet about it, but there was like funny, entertaining dialogue. There's very few things in there that were like, me and Dylan screenshotted and like went back and forth on Discord talking about some of the comments, but if you tap on someone's profile, you can see all the other comments they left.
Yeah, most of the people who left could do. That's so funny.
Yeah, most of the people who left really mean comments also go on like other videos of ours and leave really mean comments, and like it's always in the same kind of narrative too. So we took it as what it was and just like laughed it off. Yeah. But I DM Benny afterwards. I was like, hey Benny, just making sure because these comments are crazy. We're good, right? Like we just had fun argument about it.
There's another one that I actually got into a discourse with the guy, and I'm wondering if he deleted it at this point. But he basically started off by stating, just because I don't know who they are because I listen to white people music doesn't mean they're not famous.
I saw that one.
Which I found hilarious, because if you were to go on my Spotify, which I pulled up here to just kind of prove a point, you can believe it or not, I don't care.
Film scores and metal, from what I can tell.
That's two of the
top 40.
That's two of the things.
The top 40 pop.
So the way my brain works, I need something going on in the background at all times. So there's normally just music going. So you're right. It's film scores. I listen to a lot of game soundtracks and lo-fi because there's no lyrics. It's whatever. I listen to a lot of metal. I got like Led Zeppelin in here. I got 80s metal, 90s metal, stuff like that. But then yesterday I was listening to the BTS radio, which is all K-pop stuff. Yeah, that was fun.
Did Fortnite get you into BTS?
No, I got into BTS beforehand because I got into an argument with our other friend Bunny about them and was like,
Fortnite actually got me into Fortnite did get me into BTS. I'm not gonna lie. The fucking iconic dance. Down.
I was listening to some Hatsune Miku a couple of days ago, and then Dark Hatsune Miku, which is basically just Japanese metal.
Sweet. Hell yeah.
I was listening. I'm just going through this to show like some examples here. I at one point over the last, I don't know when I did this, but I listened to the entire Pokemon themed metal versions on Spotify. So it's just all Pokemon.
Great that is legitimately such a good listen. No, it's so fun.
Really?
I've done
metal
that before
Pokemon?
too.
Okay.
Pokemon is
21 Pilots, the 1974, 75. I mean, that's pretty standard. Imagine Dragons. Was it? I do listen to Pop Smoke and the Kids. They were up there. I had Run DMC going the other day.
I've heard of Pop Smoke.
Justice. I don't know if you know who Justice is, but they sang that song "Dance" forever ago.
Yeah, the biggest thing in the world.
yeah, biggest thing in the world. What it was. I had the Squid Game soundtrack going because if you don't know the song to the Pink Soldiers, it's.
I have not seen Squid Game.
I was playing that. I don't know why. I don't know what I was doing.
Nice.
But yeah,
just to prove my point, I listen to all kinds of music.
Sure.
Just depends
Lots
on the
of
mood.
music,
yeah. Oh, I'm glad they deleted their comment. I'm sure they recognize that they're
well,
like.
we got into a bit of an argument
stupid.
about it because they also said that I was treating you with no respect, and they based that also on our House of Dragons review, which I wanted to comment. They said that I cut him off by telling him that he was wrong when he told me like the facts about what happened with D&D. And I responded with, I believe him, because I don't have any facts myself. But the fact is, we were 7 minutes into the video, and I looked over and saw the timestamp, and I moved the video on.
We should have just turned that video into, we explain how we feel about Game of Thrones, and then we do another House of Dragons.
Yeah, we should have at that point, but he explained everything to me, and I was like, oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But you were also using it as a secondhand source. You weren't like, I read everything, and I believe you because I do know Isaiah, and I know if he liked it, he probably.
So obsessed.
So I do believe you, but at the same time, we were discussing that, and the video was turning into Game of Thrones, not House of Dragons.
Which,
so
I think I understood it because I know how you talk. Yeah. I think when I went back and watched it, it seems like you're just trying to. You're like, I don't know if I believe you on that one. I'm gonna keep going. It's not what you're doing at all, but it just sounds like it when you listen to it without knowing our dynamics and stuff. Yeah, no, I was surprised you didn't know all that, but I bet that's really interesting, and I'd love. We should just bring Isaiah into the chair and have him explain it to you.
I don't deep dive on things because I have to deep dive on so many fandoms already. Some of them I just like to enjoy. Game of Thrones was always that before House of Dragons. Stranger Things. I don't look into anything involved in Stranger Things because I just want to watch. That's why when you guys did the review, I was watching it. I didn't want to be a part of it because that means I got to do work for it. I can't just enjoy
you gotta
it.
think about it more. Yeah, totally. That was something that I was worried about when we first started this channel. I was like, the stuff I love is gonna turn into work, which it already had because we had been comic books have been part of my work circle for basically my entire career. But it has affected that in some regard. Like sometimes I think I'm definitely more burnt out of Marvel stuff specifically than I would have been if we hadn't been talking about them critically every week. But it is what it is. I still like it. So
no. And then there was another thing somebody pointed out. They're like, Hassan, did you not know? Because I said Game of Thrones had the highest fall from like one of the most unceremonious fall from grace. Everybody loved it. It was the height of pop culture, and then it was gone. And then they're like, do you not remember when it happened to Lost? Do you not know that it happened to Lost? Hassan, you're so stupid. You forgot it happened to Lost.
I recently started looking into what happened with Lost because I had no idea. I know it went to shit. Like what the fuck happened?
Which I knew what happened to Lost back when it happened because I was a big Lost fan. Billiam, amazing YouTuber, good friend. He's actually just uploaded. He had a 2-hour part one.
That's how I was like,
6-hour part 2 on it. But the difference between Lost and Game of Thrones was that Lost, the writers were coming out week after week, year after year, being like, they're not letting us write the ending of this, so this is gonna get bad, guys. With Game of Thrones, it was like, we have so much stuff to work with, but we're not gonna work with it. We're gonna shit the bed on this. That's what I was trying to talk about. But again, I speak in hyperbole. I'll readily admit that. My friends tell me that all the time. They're like, Hassan, I need you to dial it back so that you can have more grandiose things to say later. But definitely. I was talking about the Game of Thrones thing. Doesn't mean I haven't seen television. A lot of people like to criticize my age in the comment section for some reason. It's become this really running thing to just be like, Hassan's so young, he doesn't get this or doesn't get that. I absolutely do get it. I just like to talk in a way that makes me happier.
I want to. There have been discussions that Dan and I have had with Hassan though, where we have to kind of make him realize TikTok's sphere and how far it actually goes. But before this sounds like I'm bashing on him. He's a new content creator. I've dealt with that we did that with the early YouTube where it was like, we're the biggest thing since fucking sliced bread. Why does nobody like? You go through a phase as a content creator where you're like, you figure this stuff all out.
That's also the same. Like I feel like that's the same thing as talking about like everybody exists in their own circles, and people believe that their circle is the true circle more than everyone else. So I think like you can bring someone back to earth, but really you're just bringing them more towards your circle, which you believe is more down to earth or whatever.
Ben and I had a great conversation about like. Benny and I had a great conversation a few months ago about Comic Talk, because at the time I really, really wanted to go to like red carpet premieres and stuff because I had enough followers for it. My mutuals were going for it, and it was a really big deal to me. And I kept getting angrier at comic tubers or comic TikTokers that I really liked, but because they were getting to go to red carpets. And Benny was like, Hassan, you think they're the greatest thing ever, and maybe Andrew Garfield recognizes this TikToker because he's seen his videos, and you love Andrew Garfield. Doesn't mean everybody knows who the hell this guy is. Doesn't mean that. And I took some pretty big steps away because I was like, who really cares about a red carpet? Like, I'm fine. I haven't really watched as many of those content, and then now I really don't care as much. It doesn't bother me as much. Like, they went to the Cobra Kai red carpet premiere this last weekend. There's a lot of my mutual friends and stuff. I'm the biggest Cobra Kai fan. I'm one of the few motherfuckers that were watching that when it was on friggin' Disney, what was it, or not, YouTube Red or whatever it was called.
I saw it on YouTube Red.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of that. And then one at like Sholo Marduina, Blue Beetle, the main character Miguel, recognized one of the people I probably hate the most in the world in the comic community. And I remember if I saw this 4 months ago before I talked to Benny, I would have been like so angry and like, this sucks and whatever. But I was like, that's cool, good for him. Highlight, not interested, scrolled past it because it just doesn't matter as much anymore.
The thing that I've realized doing this for as long as I have is just looking at things in a proper perspective. Comicstorian's not going to go forever. Yeah. Absolutely, it's not going to go forever. TikTok won't be going on forever. YouTube won't be going on forever. You just kind of gain these perspectives as you're going. Yeah. But to bring this back to some fun comments, I like this one. The fact that Benny knew who Pop Smoke was, but not Meg Thee Stallion is killing me.
There were a lot of them that were like... Some of them were just like, hey, Betty, you're old. Goodbye.
Yeah, I like that one. You're a boomer. You're old. You're a boomer. You're proving your age.
Well, my favorite thing...
Well, divorced from all of this, Benny definitely does not like to admit that he's wrong.
Not even a little bit.
Oh, I mean, does
even
anybody,
if he is right or
does
if
anybody
he is wrong.
like to get up and go, I was wrong?
I absolutely love to do it. I don't care.
In the She-Hulk episode we did, you guys were like, no, you're wrong about it being episode 5. And I was like, oh, yeah.
But you were sticking to your guns until we just had everything against you on that
right,
one.
As a joke, but I didn't go on a 6-minute tirade about like, here's why I thought that.
I like this. Benny is really rocking the get off my lawn old man energy.
Yep.
Hassan is dead right. Megan Thee Stallion isn't a household name that everyone knows. Right above that, fam, I'm 40, and I'm telling you, Megan Thee Stallion has always been bigger than Doja Cat. So, like, these are side-by-side comments. I just want to state.
They are. This one says, it's like you guys speaking. Dylan, Benny, it's okay. Benny, I don't care. Dylan, clearly you do. It just keeps going. These are so funny.
Oh, yeah. This was a great one. I can't wait to see. We gotta do another one. Another amazing end of this episode. Interesting to be Benny's age, but agree with Hassan and Dylan. I know who Megan Thee Stallion is, and I'm 39. I'm younger than all of you. I feel better. I am 38, so I'm winning this.
Yeah, you know what? That is a kind of a crazy takeaway to me. Is there's a lot of boomers watching our videos, which I didn't think about.
That was wild.
So, hey guys, how's it going over there in your house that you bought?
There's a lot of very. It's such a spread.
Dylan, it's awesome.
Okay, boomer. I will be renting
such a
forever.
Spread of people. I like reading those comments. There was like from every walk of. There were even me and Dylan joked about it. I'm not going to call the specific comment or anything like that, but we're like, this is the kind of viewer we definitely don't want. We don't believe any of the same things as you. You're a mean person. And
you are mean to us.
Well, it's like you're talking about some stuff that like there's no way no one on this channel agrees with your opinions on life. But he keeps commenting them. He's the woke guy in the comments who'd be like, well, I don't know about this woke perspective. If you guys use that word and you're not Benny explaining it, you're wrong.
My problem, and I've said to people, my problem with the woke is it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's just turned into that generic word they use to throw out when they don't like something. But
and the only people
related to that, a comment from what I had on my channel. So we put out a video, and I knew this was going to get people riled up. Red Hulk versus She-Hulk. The comic is written in 2008, and what it is She-Hulk gets all of her female friends and goes to fight Red Hulk when he was an actual villain, and he beats the tar out of them, tries to blackmail them into sex, chokes out She-Hulk, threatening to rape her. I'm not even joking. This all happens. We did not use the key words. This is a 2008 comic, okay? And we had a comment that was stating that this is the problem with Marvel nowadays, because they're trying to empower women by making them fight the Red Hulk. And I responded with, this book came out of 2008. This is not a current book. Vice versa. We put out a clip it was a short, Young Justice versus the Mighty Endowed, which is a villain who uses her boobs to hypnotize Tim Drake, Impulse, and Superboy. And one of the comments was, you can quite obviously tell that this book came out before 2014, based on the artwork and based on the context, because DC would never have the balls to do anything like this today. They're so woke, blah, blah, blah. And I responded with, this came out last month. It is Young Justice Dark Crisis issue 1.
and they responded by deleting their comment or not responding at all.
No, they responded with something along the lines of like, well, this is a one-off. They'll never do this kind of stuff again. Which got me thinking, all these people try to argue about woke comics. What comics are you reading? Because, like, Batman doesn't have any of your argued woke stuff. The Avengers doesn't have any of your argued woke stuff. Like, are you literally looking for the ones that, like, look blatantly obvious, like they're for a feminist agenda?
They're rereading comics from the 90s over and over again and pretending that nothing new was coming.
No, I'm talking nowadays. Nowadays. If you go into the comics nowadays, everyone's arguing that everything from Marvel and DC is woke. And I feel like they read one comic book that said something about LGBTQ and was like, well, that's it. They're all woke now.
Yeah.
Because Superboy is bisexual, and that changes everything for us. A character who had no history now likes boys and girls.
Spider-Man 2099 Exodus, there's nothing in that but him fighting villains. Ghost Rider is currently on a journey across the states, tearing demons out of souls. Like, he's just ripping people in half. The mutants are killing each other in their book, okay? We got, like, Sword of Azrael, where he's got a flaming sword and he's just mass murdering enemies right now. Batman Beyond is currently trying to figure out how to deal without having Bruce around. No woke anything in these books, but apparently all of DC and Marvel's woke right now.
It's also like women, the term woke. Captain America was political propaganda comics, and then it got turned into a nuanced story about the problems with politics.
First cover.
But I'm just saying, like, I don't want to go into another rant about. I'm just saying, I just find it hilarious that people try to argue these points based on these comments. We lost Hassan, it looks like, so I'm just gonna end with this one here though. Tristan Smith, I'm gonna give him credit because he actually looked at it from a more nuanced argument. Hassan is right about her area of influence. Benny is right about the fact that if you're not in that area of influence, you likely don't know her. I knew absolutely nothing about her prior to this episode, but I also personally don't follow rap and hip-hop as someone who is big into rap and hip-hop would not be recognizable to me. Anything I might have seen her in came from weird gifts or memes, but frankly, if that's the case, I probably just wrote those appearances off as reality TV, which is something else I don't follow. And Hassan missed it, but that embodies the entire argument in itself. He basically just said that you're right about her area of influence, but I'm right that if you're not in that area of influence, you wouldn't know who she is. But yes, overall, we all have fun. We love doing these kinds of debates and arguments. We'd love to do more of them, and would love to have you guys be a part of it with your comments and stuff like that. So if you ever think there's a fun debate you want us to actually have, we can easily make this a regular segment because, trust me, the three of us like to argue. Sal's the one that doesn't really like to argue. I don't mean that in a bad way. He just doesn't like stretch it out into a big.
No, I feel like Sal is just, he has his opinions and he's jaded by the YouTube comments. So like he's done with that style of argument, which is totally fair.
It's very, very fair. And for me, I still like reading. Like I look into the Absolutely comics are a lot more interesting to me than my comment section because mine are comedy videos, so they're mainly about the comedy other than my podcast stuff. So I like to read these comment sections. So there's always interesting stuff in there, and you guys have interesting opinions and whatnot. I think, Benny, we're on to some gold mine of us just arguing old man versus young person, boomer versus
I'm the old
zoomer.
Man. Ignore the gray in the beard, guys.
Benny starts dyeing his beard to try and
We're gonna end this segment with this one last comment that I found. I'm going to end on this note, and no one can say anything afterwards. Matter of fact, check out our sponsors, do all that. The video has to cut off after this is done. Okay? This comment is, Benny was right and Hassan was coping. End video.
Somebody also commented.
No, end video. Video's over.
It's not over.
Actually, Dylan was right because he's the editor and he has all the power.